So since October 7th, I think many people in the Jewish community, the pro-Israel community, have been wondering, how is it that Israel's case is so strong? The case is so clear, the morality is so clear, the evil of Hamas is so clear, and yet it feels like our arguments just with some people, a lot of people, not all people, but a lot of people, especially even in the elitist classes of media and NGOs and politicians and celebrity culture and the podcasters, seems like these arguments just often aren't cutting through. And people don't understand, what is it with these double standards? There's just this incomparable double standards. If Mahmoud Khalil was anti-Muslim or anti-black, no one would be up in arms about him being deported as a foreign student that's supporting and advocating and practicing violence, basically, and intimidation and harassment against a minority group. But it's different with Israel. The question I want to address is why? Because once you understand the reason, then you can at least, first of all, realize you're not going mad. And secondly, you can start to deal with how we address it. And the truth is that, in my humble opinion, this is a supernatural phenomenon. And thus, it requires a supernatural, a deeper cure, way of resolving this. What do I mean by that? Well, I want to share with you my chapter in a book that I contributed to called Young Zionist Voices. You can get it online. It's got a whole range of Zionist voices that are from around the globe, in Israel and around the world, many of whom I'll agree with, some of whom I vehemently disagree with. But they asked me to write a chapter in this book, and I did, and I'd actually like to read to you my contribution, because I get to the heart of this question that I think, to me, holds the key to the whole Israel, quote-unquote, Palestine conflict. And the title that I've given is Embrace Chosenness. Embrace difference. Embrace the fact that we have these double standards that are applied to the Jews. And I'll explain why. So here's what I wrote. I don't know whether you have noticed, but it seems that no matter how compelling our arguments are, no matter how just Israel's cause is, we just aren't cutting through. Since October 7th, the facts have become clearer than ever, so there's less room for the lies to hide. Yet so many still believe them. Israel does everything that is demanded of it. It gives back land for peace and is met with terror. But the world says Israel needs to do more. Israel is faced with Hamas's genocidal massacre. And when the IDF responds in the most surgically precise way, unprecedented in the history of urban warfare, it's called genocide. We point to our ancient connection to the land, but we're called colonizers. Despite the now overwhelming evidence demonstrating widespread support for Hamas's Nazi-esque ideology among Palestinians, any measure Israel takes for basic security and survival is considered a war crime. It isn't surprising that many Hasbara, i.e. pro-Israel activists, feel like they're bashing their heads against a wall. I'm sure there are people out there who are open to reason and will see the obvious merit of Israel's case, but will we ever cut through the vicious hostility to Israel that lies at the root of this ongoing conflict? It certainly seems that our strategy isn't doing the trick. We need a serious rethink. Recently, I was chatting with a young British Muslim who is sympathetic to Israel. He told me that one of the main arguments he hears in Muslim circles is that Israel is a phony state because the Jews are meant to be godly, religious people, and the secular democratic values espoused by Israel's leaders seem to reject this. Now, I do not for 1 second want to find any virtue behind the arguments that excuse the appalling hatred levelled at the Jewish state. But I do think this comment should give us pause. Israel is surrounded by religious, God-centric cultures. Yet our activism is focused on a Western audience. Israel's neighbours are not impressed by democracy or international law or even groundbreaking technology. October 7th was the day that brought all of Israel's cosmic battles into sharp focus more than ever before. The day was Simchat Torah, when we start reading the Torah anew. We went back to Genesis, the beginning. The most famous of all Torah commentators, Rashi, opens his very first comment with a question, paraphrased. Why did the Torah begin with God's creation of the world and not the first commandment? Because if the nations of the world tell the Jews they are thieves, foreign occupiers of a land not theirs, Israel will respond that God is the creator of the universe and he assigned it to the Jews. It seems like Rashi is saying that this is the only argument the nations of the world will find convincing. I do not think it was by chance that Israel read this message on October the 7th, 2023. I think it's the call of the hour. We should be clear to the world who we are. God's chosen people, chosen to articulate his moral vision for the world, and whose right to the land comes from God himself. Now, when I propose this to some Jews, they go crazy. Are you trying to inflame tensions even more? This will only further enrage our enemies. When I discussed this with YouTube's most popular rabbi, Manis Friedman, he pointed out the following. First of all, how are all our other arguments working out for Israel's PR? Again, they aren't cutting through. Second, it's too late. We've already been chosen. We didn't do it. It happened to us. And for much of the world, the revelation on Mount Sinai is something they believe in. So they already know there is something different about the Jews. Part of the reason Hasbara fails is because it is rooted in our frustration that the world treats us differently, with double standards, and we crave for the Jews to be treated as a nation like all others. By the way, I would just note, I didn't put this in the article, but Benjamin Netanyahu, one of his early books, was called A Place Among the Nations. This is the mistake. As I continue writing, we will always be treated differently because the world knows we are different. And the more we deny it, the more it frustrates them. But difference is not necessarily a bad thing that we should resist. Difference can be wonderful. The Jewish people's divine mission in this world could be best understood by imagining a teacher in a classroom full of students. When a teacher tries to act like one of the students, they simply take advantage. They bully the teacher, and chaos reigns. But they certainly do not treat the teacher like one of them. All that happens is the teacher and the students both become frustrated. I don't doubt that historically anti-Semitism came from jealousy of the Jewish people's chosen role. Even if it wasn't said explicitly, it was clearly a key driver. But our chosenness is an irreversible fact. We can't deny it even if we want to. And when we've tried to run away from it, the world has always pushed back. So the solution is not for us to shy away from our difference, but for us to speak clearly with the authority of a teacher in a rowdy classroom. It is the nations, the students, who need to revise their attitude towards us. You can be jealous of someone else's position, or you can be proud to partner with them and excited to play your own unique role in this great divine plan. But this can happen only when everyone speaks plainly. While the anti-Semitism of the past was driven by jealousy of our chosenness, one thing has changed today. People are gradually realizing the moral emptiness of the ideologies and institutions they once put their faith in. This came into particularly sharp focus in the aftermath of October 7th, which I also do not see as a coincidence. Whether it's academia, political leaders, celebrity culture, the media, or even religious culture, we are witnessing a severe shortage of moral leadership. Couple this with the unprecedented political and social freedoms most Jews have today, and we now have the perfect opening for the Jewish people finally to come into their global role. As the verse says, and this isn't again in the article, but I'm just reminded of this famous verse that we often quote. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah u'devar Hashem Yerushalayim. For out of Zion shall go forth the Torah and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. That is the Jewish people's global mission. I concluded by writing, anti-Semitism also thrives in part on the Jews being a mystery. How is it that the Jews are so successful despite the odds being stacked against them? How does such a small people with such unique qualities have such a wide influence? These mysteries feed into conspiracy and paranoia, and in previous generations we simply did not have the freedom or security to challenge them. But today we do. What about, instead of just fighting anti-Semitism, we try to create pro-Semitism? If the hate thrives on mystery, let's demystify. Jews sometimes feel the world is out to get us, but again, that could be understood as just wanting to get us, to understand who we really are. Since my teen years, I've been consistently blown away by the depths of wisdom and moral brilliance in our Torah and Jewish heritage. I've been amazed at how much Judaism has already transformed the world in the global conversation of ideas. Today we have an unprecedented opportunity to take this to a radically new level. In a world crying out for moral leadership, it's finally time for us to provide it. Getting rid of anti-Semitism is only the short-term prize of this approach. The real prize will be greater than we can imagine. That's the end of the piece that I wrote in the chapter, and it kind of informs everything that I do, certainly on this channel. We're trying to reach everyone, Jew and non-Jew, and provide the wisdom, the insight, the purpose that the Jewish people were created to provide the world with. So, to me, a religious and spiritual problem requires a religious spiritual solution. For those that think the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Israeli-Arab conflict really, that whole Palestinian concept is just a tool, it's just a ploy to try and undermine Israel. But for those that think it's just a land dispute, it's a political dispute, you will never ever resolve the problem. It's actually what's led to this problem today, thinking that land for peace, all these things will resolve it. Once you understand that it's religious, and once you understand that that's what is required as a solution, then things will truly change for the better. And as I concluded, in ways we couldn't even begin to imagine.
Thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.